Hey everybody, Jamie Starr here for the New World News Network. We are, I think I've kind of decided we're just running with the channel, and, if it gets run into the ground, fuck it. So I want to talk about a few things. A few news things that I had seen. Um, and one of the things I've been thinking for a while, I might have kind of touched on it here and there, but I've been seeing this attempt to sort of bring back the debate scene and also commenting on videos and hearing some responses that I just don't know. There's a lot of, let me put it like this. For as pragmatic as people with right leaning politics are, and let me just apologize first if I've seemed sort of out of it, not really. Or no, I'm just having my coffee. I feel like hell. But I kind of do every morning. Until I'm like full of all my supplements and everything like that. It's just Lyme disease. You just basically imagine if someone had like vice grips on all of your joints and are just slowly, ever so slowly ratcheting them up, and you're just like feeling like you're being like pressed on, and like, so not feeling very comfortable right now. But so many people are just like, oh, I need to stop by and see you. I need to do this. I have a recording session tonight. I don't even know what my work schedule is of the day. I have to try to make it into the office. So today's going to be a clusterfuck. So I just wanted to get this out of the way and, do something to feed the algorithm. Because, like I said, we're we're just going to run with it. Because what's the fucking point otherwise? And the other thing is there's no chance of me getting the close to 3,000 subscribers over here to subscribe to my channel, Jamie Star Music. That's where you can follow my music, Jamie Star Music on Twitter, Instagram. Follow me there because obviously you supported me doing this and enjoyed me doing this at some point on this channel. And I showed in the last video, for well over a year now, they keep me at 2 strikes, where just anything else will just get the channel deleted. And every time one of those strikes elapse, they go back to 2016 and find something new to strike. And it's really awful. And honestly, I don't want to seem as though I am lashing out constantly at political YouTubers. But I mean, I can't even. I mean, there are just like a handful of people that it's like. And I don't know if they're just in their head being like, oh, this is just someone that wants me to promote their music or this and that. But like, even shot Jack Murphy a message just being like, hey, Jack, I'm a right leaning musician who also does political YouTubes. All these people are saying we're in a culture war. Yet I'm finding it very difficult to engage with anyone and to try to find anyone to support. I mean, it's like, and I'm not trying to do this whole woe is me bullshit because I don't give a fuck. I mean, that's part of the reason why I hit the reset button on all my social media. I'm fine rebuilding. I'm rebuilding my music career under a new name. I don't need a handout. I don't need anyone's help. But what I don't understand also is everyone saying, this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem. And I'm at a nexus point in between all of these problems. And yet, no one seems to care. Um, so doesn't matter. I mean, it's like I got real world connections. You know who I think got a little bit of the taste of that help when there was a time for it, and then is sort of waned in and out. And I'm just outsider looking in. But Martina, I have plans, hopefully, tentative plans with her and Jack next week. I can't wait for that. I have, me and Martina, when we used to run in the same circles, we never really interacted much. And then, because that was one of the things when we first started talking. Oh, you'd be at Vassar events? I'd be at Vassar events. How did we never link up? But I do remember, Martina's stunning. So I obviously remembered her being there. You can't have a looker like that around and just be oblivious to it. And then there were projects me and Jack were going to work on. Never really came to fruition. So even if we get nothing productive done, it's going to be really nice sitting down with those two and just hanging out and really hearing the story of all of this. Because, yeah, I've heard her say it all in interviews, but I'm sure there's inner workings of it that's probably not great interview material, but probably great story-wise. Anyway, I'm ranting. So what I want to talk about is this wanting to bring back the debate scene and this misnomer that, what was the comment I got sent? Conservatives are just liberals that pay attention. And even my mother made the point when I was talking to her the other day that she doesn't really like the whole left-right thing and I vote based on the person. Now, I didn't feel like cracking open that can of worms with her, but that's very dangerous. If anything, you should vote on the party, because the parties have positions. And this is this weird sort of thing where to just vote based on the person is, first off, a really bad sign of the times, because it shows the uniparty's existence. It shows that there's so little difference between some of these candidates that whether there's a D or an R by their name is irrelevant. But there is supposed to be a underlying fundamental difference between the two, and the line in the sand that I present to people as being that is the private property line. Now, yes, me saying this could delve more into a libertarian direction, but the reality of it is you can look at something as simple as taxes, and at least Republicans respect there being a line somewhere. But the Democrats just don't. And I've told the story over and over, the building the shed, the little pop-up rinky-dink shed, and 2 days later some bureaucrat's like, oh, you didn't file a paperwork for this. You have to take the whole thing down. You can't just send in the fucking form and keep all of your hard work in place. No, you need to remove it and then fill out this form and then build the thing again, and then you're fine because you actually don't own the property that you think is yours. That's the Democrat MO. It's basically the you'll own nothing and everything's rented to you. It's been that way. It's been that way with your house. Your biggest possession. I don't give a fuck if Netflix or Microsoft want me renting my Xbox instead of own it. What the fuck would that matter? I wish it could. Things would probably be cheaper that way. So it's like the big things. Your car is like that in the reality of the situation. Now I know people will say, "Oh, but you can buy a car outright for cash." You think. There's a level of this that is very conspiratorial. Hold on. Even people could not be in the house and will still find a way to interrupt me. I hate this. So, your car. I had a friend whose parents passed away. We moved into the house, and there were 2 cars in the driveway. So these were old cars, and this is very much, again, the way they play the games with the house stuff and trying to put up some little pop-up shed. So they go to my friend and they say, you can't have two unregistered cars in your either unregistered or they didn't have plates or something like that, but you can't have them in your driveway. So what do we have there? We have, first off, the state is exerting control over where the cars can be and what little slip of paper is attached to each of these cars. And then from them saying you can't have these in your driveway, it's then, okay, well, you have to move them out of the driveway and onto the road. Well, you can't have unregistered / unlicensed. I really don't remember if it was both or just one of those two. But you cannot have that on the sidewalk. But now that it's on the sidewalk, they can call a tow company and take your car away. So you're then in the position where you have to pay for the registration, pay for the license, pay for the towing in order to get back a car that you thought you owned, that you thought was on your property. I mean, you own nothing. If you don't own a car and can't keep that car on your property, you own nothing. I don't care about the knickknacks. These are major purchases. And what do they do if you don't come and get your car back? Oh, well, they'll sell it. So forgive me if I seem very cynical towards agencies like CPS, and I look at how they handle someone's car, and I think, well, if you do that with people's cars and everything else, why wouldn't you be doing that with kids and whatever else you can get your grubby little hands on? So I don't even remember how I got... Oh, because the difference between the left and the right. And that ties into a little bit of internet dialogue, drama, whatever you want to call it, that was going on yesterday between Tim Pool and the Quartering. I don't want to get too much into that necessarily, but again, there was a lot of this sort of debate, left-right dynamic going on in the comment sections, because, again, that's where I saw the comment, conservatives are just liberals that are paying attention. No, not at all, because private property. Now, the comment I made, and I will stand 100% by this comment, because there was a clip about Tim berating Jack Murphy and taking it up to 11. And my remark in regards to that was, when Tim is portraying himself as the milquetoast fence sitter, vaccinations are between a person and their doctor, and then when someone is saying, oh, well, my kid's a minor, they need it for school, this and that, I think, I'm just going to have them get those so they can consider their lives. And then he takes it up to 11 and is making claims like, you don't care about your kids and everything like that. Like, all that's going to do is blow holes in your credibility. You can't be saying, I'm playing the milquetoast fence sitter role, and then when you're sitting at the computer alone by yourself, just doing your daily news coverage, and then when you're in a dialogue with someone later, you've cranked it up to 11 or are making wild claims like you don't care about your kids if they're getting vaccinated. And like, I couldn't tell, like, let me add some layers to this. Is you can't respond. First of all, there's a underlying idea that the vaccine must be fucking dangerously horrible, or you are just saying anything that's mandated is dangerously horrible. And a lot of people were coming to him and bringing up positions on taxes, where he's basically like, they're saying, well, if you're putting forth this premise, what about taxes? People oppose taxes, but they still pay taxes. People oppose YouTube censorship, They still, and as far as the whole, there's another video he did yesterday about how New York City only gave out so many vaccine mandate violation things, whatever, and this and that. And again, I didn't watch the video, so I'm speaking with a complete blind spot. But here's something I will say, and I understand how this is going to make me look. So, I used to be in a band that used to perform a lot of shows, a lot, like once a week, basically, with these two other bands. My Bitter End, who, if anyone's into metalcore during, I don't know, early 2000s, late 2010s, you might have heard of My Bitter End. They got around and they were out there. And then there was Mabus, which was much more attached to My Bitter End, did collaborations with them and everything like that. They had a singer named Shane. I've always been a fan of Shane. His writing, just the way his mind works. I think if there were, within this group of three bands, if there were any two people that were just sort of on the same wavelength, it was probably always me and Shane. Run into him when I'd visit my friend Joel at Purchase. Well, Shane's doing Tim's paranormal whole endeavor, which is awesome. I can't tell you, again, I've always thought Shane was creatively astounding. So anything that's giving that dude a bigger platform, congrats. Beautiful thing. So before all of this, anytime Tim Pool has referenced anything, culture war, the chicken cam, we need music for it, Ian's talking about NFTs and I'm trying to tell him about async art. Like, there is like a brick wall for what, and I don't know, for all I know, it's the internet. Like I said, there are times where I feel like these creators are basically asking for me in every way but name, and then just nothing. So, if I could reconnect with Shane on some level that's meaningful and not just following each other's tweets and sort of build that bridge, I would like to. So I don't want anything I'm saying now to be just misconstrued as attack, drama, whatever. I'm sure everyone's great people. I like to think of myself as a good person, but I also like to think of myself as a bit of a heel, and I'm good at playing the bad guy. And I don't want to change that. So if I seem like I'm being precautious and sort of mincing my words, that's why. Not that I'm afraid of speaking out against anyone. I don't want anything I'm saying to be misconstrued as personal, though. Especially not with people that I would like to work with. So, disclaimer there. I saw Tim do a video yesterday. Again, I didn't watch it because I don't want to ruin my impression of him. Sometimes, I'd much rather hear something from the person themselves than hear through all this other stuff. And again, like I mentioned on the Quarterings comments section, if that whole, well, you don't care about your kid's business was mentioned in front of me, as much as I'd like to build that bridge, I'd probably be inadvertently picking up the gasoline can to burn it, because I'm not good at biting my tongue, especially when we're hitting profound levels of stupid. And everyone is subject to that. But there was a video about how few vaccine violations there were in New York City, and that New York City is crumbling under the mandate. And I just ask myself, how, like, at what point, and the Quartering made this point where he said, Tim Pool has earned himself the ability to live a life that is extremely privileged, where he barely even has to go into town. I mean, you see when people are like, well, what about you coming in person to do a video? He's basically like, no, I don't leave my premises. I mean, yeah, there's videos of him running out, but you know what I'm talking about. He's basically like, I don't leave my house. Good. I would do the exact same. That's why I want to farm. Not knocking that. Um, but maybe you've been out of New York so long that yeah, there probably only is about 4 places that are anti-vaccine mandate. Like this area, even where I'm at, I'm in a red area of New York because all right, something I've pointed out before. We need electoral colleges for the states because New York is a red state governed by New York City, which is a blue city. There are blue cities. Georgia is a red state run by Atlanta. Blue city. There's countless examples of this. This is what they're trying to do in Austin. Austin will never go blue, but it will be run by Democrats just out of population centers that will be blue. So I don't know what he was expecting the vaccination violations and all that stuff in New York City to look like. I really feel like New York City would have done this to themselves, regardless of the mandates or whatever. You know, it's one of these things where I make the point to people, they're not allowed to mandate these things. But because you believe they're allowed to, they are allowed to. And it's simply that simple. It's a confidence game. If you are if you believe that someone has the authority to say and do and to make you do these things and you act accordance to that, well then they do have the power to it and the law is irrelevant. And it's like that for a handful of places. So one of the things though is there is a misconception, and I don't have the data pulled because again I want to just get this all out there before I start my day. There's a misconception that the right wing can educate the left into seeing the light. And I'm here to tell you that is wrong. Our politics are too closely tied into our personalities and just how we operate. More of it is hardwired to us than most would like to believe. And that's why when there are people that do convert, it tends to be a very easy conversion. You know, my significant other and their family, I can sit down and have a breakfast with them and there is no contention regarding politics despite our voting differences because their parents at least are very suspicious of corporate overreach, suspicious of corporate influences on the news media. What's some of the other ones? Just very individual minded liberals. You know, they think there is a role for the government. They think the government can be successful at this role. But, and, you know, this may, and it could be because there's a mother and a father. You know, I'm like most people in my city, I grew up with just a mother. And in the psychology of women, you know, agreeableness, you kind of, when there's just the agreeableness and there's nothing to balance that out. My mom, it's very interesting because whereas we hear about the welfare state, you know, inserting itself in that sort of resource role with government and, you know, replacing the father, my mom really can handle all the resources on her own. She is the strong, independent woman in that, you know, mindset. But there is still a part of her that likes the government being there in that sort of paternal, oh well, the FDA is making sure we can't buy anything that isn't safe, so it's the protector, you know. There was a statement she made the other day where she said, I wouldn't want to live in a place where people have guns. There is not a day going by in this fucking city, Poughkeepsie, New York, that people aren't getting shot. So you don't want to live in a place where people are legally allowed to own guns, but you're fine living in a place where people are getting shot. But it's all because of what the government says. See, here the government says you're not supposed to have guns. So it's like the father making the rules. Children, no guns allowed. And then when they break the rules, it's just like, oh, well, children will break the rules and we will punish them. But what she can't handle is that fatherly government figure saying the children can have guns. That's where she goes. I mean, and it's, to me, it's insane. It is, I mean, beyond insane. Like, just out of shooting rates, you're in imminent danger, but you don't think you are. You've convinced yourself you're not. But if you go somewhere where there is no danger, there's no police sirens, no one's getting shot, well, there you feel like you're in imminent danger just simply because there's more freedom. Do not underestimate how many other people in New York are like this and would have this same perspective towards vaccines and things like that. And if you're just out in the middle of the woods and you're very far removed from this level of insanity and just reading it through the news, you're never going to fully grasp the mental gymnastics these people are willing to put themselves through. And the fact that there's no way they'll ever break out of it because it's too intertwined with their personalities. So, we're just going to go through this little dialogue I had yesterday to further exemplify some of this, because here are parts of it where, again, you would think it's pretty basic and in front of everyone. So I said a simple thing, and this is a rule that I always think you should try to apply wherever you can, because it demystifies the institutions. So I said, can we just acknowledge and state a rule of thumb that if it's unrealistic in your personal life, it should be assumed unrealistic for the government or corporations? The idea that they can forecast their budget over a 10-year period is insane. And that's just matter of fact. Prices of things change quicker than in a decade. You don't know what's going to happen. COVID's a great example. If in 2010 you said, give us a 10-year budget for what you guys are going to need for anything, COVID would have blew that out of the water. The idea of doing a 10-year budget's insane. The idea of doing a 1-year budget is almost insane. So it's just the way it is. So this guy's talking to Dr. Karlin Borisenko, and you know, when he's saying the thing about, oh, well, you know, it's going to cost nothing. That's insane. Like if someone can come out of their face with $3.5 trillion spending bill that is actually equal to zero, not worth engaging in. So I'm an idiot here for even thinking this was a worthwhile endeavor. But one of the things I understand with Twitter is it's a game. If I engage with this moron, someone on the outside might see it. I might get a new follower. I hate all this shit, honestly. So, I respond to this asshole with, you know, she says the thing, I'd be happy to slash defense budget, this and that. Now, here's a problem. Whether it's a disaffected liberal like Carlin, whether it's someone like me who's anarchist, I guess you could put, would be the easiest, simple way. So, one of the things he said, oh, and Carlin, do you make more than 400K, or the folks that pay you? So their whole thing is, oh, well, and this is a ridiculous thing. Think about how they're looking at society where they can say, It costs nothing. And the only reason they're making that claim is because they're not charging people, or they say they're not charging people, making under 400K. As if the people that make over 400K are not part of society. Now, the people who make, like, not over 400K, but there are people who make billions who don't see themselves as part of America or the society. They see themselves as part of a global elite. So my comment was, do you do business or buy any products from people making over 400K? If so, prepare to pay your fair share of their tax burden. You're obviously economically illiterate. So, laugh my ass off. Yeah, that's a healthy business practice. Poor 400K a year people. You see how there's a not engaging with what I actually said? Now, obviously this person's a moron. You know, pronouns in the bio, stateless patriot. Like, you're not a patriot. Free Palestine, fuck Texas, BLM. I mean, obviously some warped socialist looking like a SoundCloud rapper. Like, not exactly the type of, like, these fucking people make me regret even having a tattoo. Because y'all look dumb. So, my simple response was, I'm not making a judgment on business practices. I'm simply stating a fact. And this is the other problem, that when you're so in this battle mode of left and right and left and right and left and right and left and right, and they do this where you can just simply state, like, hey, the sky is blue, and they'll be like, if that Donald Trump mentioned blue sky, GOP, GOP, and it's like, dude, I just said the sky is blue. What does any of this left and right have to do with it? But they can't help themselves. They can't help themselves. Do you think more information changes these people? Like, even when the thing that I've been sitting on, that, you know, the counterpoints. Connor from Counterpoints. Buddy, stop wasting your time. Lauren Southern, oh, I'm going to get into this whole debate thing. Well, maybe the fucking priests are burning down the churches. Do you see the level of gymnastics these people are playing in order to not even think about tidbits of information you put in front of them? This idea that a conservative's just a liberal with more information, you fucking wish. You wish. It is, I mean, watch the debate about the fucking Canadian churches being burned, and you will see a level of just mental contortion to not even acknowledge the other side's information. How can someone think that if you just present objective information, that these people will read it and go, I never thought about that, and come along to your side? No. They will twist themselves in pretzels and do whatever they have to not even glance at it. This whole idea, this is why unity is not practical. This is why coming together is not practical. The most practical thing is separation. So, and I wonder where this person lives, because they were saying a lot about New York that is not what I'm seeing, and you can't gaslight me like that. I have, besides little spats outside of New York, I've got 35 years in New York, and I've seen enough changes here that you cannot paint some rosy picture for me. But the other thing is these people that claim to be against the rich and against the elitist, when they speak about how well areas are doing, suddenly they almost act as if they're part of that. Like, I don't know. Like, this guy's talking about New York like he was at the Met Gala rather than being on a subway train that some bum is pissing in the corner of. I just don't get it in that level. I mean, that's where I would think the information would sort of, make a change with what they're saying, because it's like, you're sitting on a subway cart, there's a bum practically pissing on your shoes, and you're like, New York is in great economic conditions. And it's like, where have you been? Um, so he says if that's the case, then places like California, Illinois, and Washington must be economic cesspools with destitute populations. Yes! I mean, you have 10 cities in California. New York is hemorrhaging people and just falling apart. Crime rates are at 1970s levels. Chicago, Illinois is not. I mean, with this guy's people say conservatives want to go back to the 1950s. This wild socialist thinks he's in the 1950s right along with him. Like, oh wait, compared to most states, they're thriving. Do you hear that? Do you hear that? So people aren't fleeing California for Austin. People aren't moving to Florida. They're not moving to Tennessee. It's not like Hollywood is collapsing and the music scene's going down to Nashville or movies are being shot. I mean, fuck, they're in Ontario now. Like, the movie industry's just decided America's a lost cause. No, it's all thriving. We're like in the 90s, guys. I mean, this is insane. So, and now the point where, and here's the funny part, I presented data to this, and it's not data changed their mind. And the data actually came from a right-wing think tank, or a libertarian think tank, but they just stopped at that point, because they realized, like, you named New York, which is in last place. Last. Out of 50. So, they're thriving compared to most states. No, not at all. Not at all. So, and here's one of the things, though. This guy is now trying to duck and weave and dodge on me. And once you start playing those games where you're evading, I'm going to attack from the left. I'm good at attacking from the left. So, and I don't think this will have all the dialogue, but let's just go through some of these points. So again, he says those places are thriving. So I said, so income inequality and homelessness aren't problems in New York and California? Laugh out loud. I live an hour from New York City and worked in mental health. People try using the mental health systems for shelter because there are too many homeless. And because it's just a little more cushy and, all that. But it's the truth. There is such a homelessness problem that the homelessness problem bleeds over into other social services. But that's thriving, so whatever. Compare and contrast their poverty rates to low-tax states with deficits. Now, here's one of the problems here. And this is a liberal-minded person just being closed-minded. You can't just crunch numbers on these things because Idaho is a different state from New York. So thinking that there's some sort of high-minded academic, something you can pull from just the abstractions of this, you're going to completely lose the reality of the situation, which is a rural farmer, money-wise, maybe in poverty, but if they're growing most of their own food, their quality of life will probably be a little higher than the person in the inner city having that same income level, proportionate to wages and all that. You know what I'm saying? It's a very obvious thing. The states are not the same. These people would like it to be. They would like everything federalized to the point where the way they look at things would make more sense. But this is again I'm so far removed from this, I can just look at these abstract numbers and think they mean something. Side note. You know why I really want to go on the Tim Pool show? Because I want to argue with Ian. And I don't even think we need Tim Pool there. I think I just want to interrogate. I'd say interrogate. And I wouldn't even say question, because I want to really drill into a lot of Ian's ideas. Because I'll hear Ian saying, well, Einstein, who the fuck is this Einstein guy? What has he ever given the world? Oh, a bunch of numbers. Abstract numbers that mean nothing compared to reality. Who's another one we wanna, I mean, what, like, graphene. Graphene. I hear all this stuff about graphene, and when I really look at, and don't compartmentalize everything, graphene is going to be the bridge that makes us transhuman. So all of this, we can save the world with graphene, Ian. Yeah, you know who thinks that? Bill Gates, George Soros, Google, Facebook. Everyone you think is against the people and all that, they're all for the graphene. So there's a lot of areas in the tech, science fiction. See, that's one of the big things, is there's a lot of stuff that gets tossed around willy-nilly on that show that sounds futuristic and like science, and it's all science fiction. Astrophysics is a heaping pile of garbage that can just be thrown out. I put more faith into there being reality in Shane's work with the paranormal than anything with Einstein attached to it. And that's just the reality of it. Here's something to think about. Because even the other day they're like, oh, well, there was a measurement of the gravity of, this area and that area and this and that. How do you know that what you're measuring is gravity? There's a issue a while back where there was an error in the code of MRI machines. And they were worried that this error in the code essentially validated every MRI up until that point. Now, were they putting people into the machine? Was the machine processing something and then giving you back some data that you then had to interpret? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's think about the idea of you're rendering a video file and there's a glitch in the encoding somewhere. Well, yeah, it's going to give you a video file. It might not be high quality, the audio might be crap, there might be glitches in the imagery here and there, but you still get the video file. Now, if you're half blind and you don't see the glitches or whatever, you're going to think that what you have is the data. Just because you have a computer processing information and it is giving you back results does not mean the results are tethered to reality. That's just all there is to it. COVID was one of these issues where in computers they are combining genetic strains and everything like that, and then putting that as the sample in a PCR test and testing, and it's a match of X amount of percents of this. And I mean, you can be testing for a virus that you don't have in reality, that is just based on a computer model. And just because you're running the test and the test is saying positive or negative doesn't mean that test has any bearing on reality. So I get very, very apprehensive when people are like, just running off at the mouth of, well, Einstein's theory of everything and string things and the strangelets and the this and that and everything, like, and the fucking particle collider and the black holes of what proof do we have of any of this? And I'll caveat that with, that doesn't come from the government. Like, this is one of the big things that really starts to bother me with some people, where you can bring them to a logical conclusion. I'm tying this back into the big point. You can bring them to a logical conclusion, and they just won't want to have it. So, I know a lot of people that see the corruption in the corporate side of the government, corporate mergers, especially in medicine nowadays. Everyone sees it in technology. Everyone knows the shady history of NASA, but they don't question any of NASA's results. I can leave that there. I can leave that hanging there. I know people that don't trust the FDA, don't trust the CDC, don't trust the NSA, don't trust the FEC, trust NASA while knowing it was founded by a bunch of Nazis and occultists. I don't get that. I really don't. That's one of the things. So whenever anyone's like this, and every so often you catch them. You catch them. NASA admits, yeah, we can't figure out how to get through this fucking radiation belt, the Van Allen belt. You mean the firmament? You mean the dome? The dome that is surrounding the Earth. Yeah, you can't get through it. So if we can't get through the dome, that means everything they've told you from outside the dome, as per them, saying that the radiation level of the dome fries everything. Fries everything. If they're getting, I mean, there are videos where NASA goes through this, where they show you the raw data from their super space cameras, and it's an algorithm. It's an algorithm that they're running through another algorithm that's basically Photoshop, and these are like AI composite images. It's not a photo. It's nowhere near a photo. Show me a Polaroid from outer space, and I'll listen. But NASA, they're not hiding any of this. They are not hiding any of it. It's all right there. You just got to do a little bit of looking. It's all bullshit. All of it. All of this. Oh, well, going to Mars and you can't get out of the dome. So don't even waste my time with what you think is beyond it. You can't get out of it. That's the heavens. It's not the sky. It's not space. There's space in between you and me right now. That's the heavens. And again, a lot of these people, they want to pick and choose, and they put themselves into these places where cognitive dissonance will breed. Because you can't be looking at the old world and thinking, you know, oh, they were right about medicine, they were right about traditional healing, they were right about meditation and this and that. All of that is derivative of their cosmology, but you think their cosmology is a complete load of crock because you think we're flying fucking rocket ships to the moon. I mean, this is a fantasy meant for little kids that people don't grow out of, like dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are bullshit. That's another one. The whole, oh, the Earth is 30 million, thousand billion years old, and it's just been sitting here stewing, and all of this science, there's the underlying theme of all of this science compared to the cosmology of every other time but now is you're nothing. That's what you take from it. And I don't even care if someone wants to tell me, Jamie, you're denying science because your own ego. I openly say, I opt for the cosmology and the worldview where I am special, where I was created by a creator and they want me to create. And that's what I'm here to do. And it's that simple. There's fanciful things around me and miraculous wonders and all of that, but at the end of the day, I know what I know. I know that inside me I am compelled to build and create. So if you tell me that everything around me actually, that there is a way to view the world that reflects that, where I am actually just in this chain of events where there was a creator, they created people, they were there to create me, and now my purpose here is also to create and to build. That makes sense. I don't see any holes in that argument. I don't see any missing links because that's what I know from my day to day, from the day I was born. So that's one of the things where if I was in one of those rooms and people start spouting off about that sci-fi bullshit, I'm going to real quick be like, what proof do you have for any of this? In what way has any of this informed any of your actions or your experiences? How much of your time is this fantasy? Like you might as well be a Star Wars fanatic because that's the same amount of impact it's going to have on your life. So that's my little rant about all that science-y bullshit. Um, and it's also, like I said, it's about this idea that everything's up in some abstraction. So I asked this guy, and one of the things like I said, I brought up is that the cost gets passed on. He thought I was making some sort of judgment. And that's what they'll do, is when you just acknowledge the reality of the matter, they'll start moralizing about it. And I'm like, I'm not making a moral argument. I'm just saying matter of fact. Like, um, yeah, not making judgment. Saki has already been questioned about it. It gets passed on, and then it's, oh, well, the poor rich people. It's like, I don't care about their rich. I'm telling you, they're going to pass it on. Now, this person rose in the profile, obviously a socialist, so they would like everything so enforced at gunpoint that they can't raise a price. That only the government's allowed to raise a price. So I said, what do state poverty rates and state budgets have to do with the federal deficit budget besides you trying to shift the goalposts? And one of the things I posted in the midst of all of this, I don't know if it's in this one, is I wonder why some hospital and medication bills are zero. Oh yeah, because they're already paid for by taxes. This is again this warped idea that if you're paying zero, no one's paying for it, but the taxes pay for it, as if we don't pay tax. Like that's the gymnastics. Commie dystopias when taxes pay for stuff. Then this is the other thing with all the clown things and this and like it's very funny when someone adopts this like you can see him posting me when they start adopting these sort of memes and all of this and like it's like this is you, like you're projecting. First off, like look at your fucking profile picture with these laser eyes, and that's what you actually like. To a normal person, when this is your profile pic, that is what you look like. um so I say, they're doing this, and he says despite doing it for decades upon decades. Oh, you can do something over and over and over. Doing something and succeeding at something are two different things. And this is one of these other very leftist thing where it's, oh, well, we need a welfare state to lift people out of poverty. Okay, 50 years later, poverty is getting worse and worse and worse. What should we do about it? How about we do more of what we've been doing, just with more money? Okay, because it's not even going in the direction it should, but okay, because you can't admit you're wrong. So, how are you going to convince people that can't admit they're wrong that they're wrong and get them to change their politics based on them being wrong? That's all I'm saying. I don't want a society. I don't want my society, my life, my social circle having these people in it. People who can't change and can't who are like, I'm miserable, everything sucks. Okay, what are you doing about it? Same thing I've been doing for a decade. Okay, have fun with that. Considering the only giant crashes in recent years have been under Republican administrations. So notice we're shifting now. It's no longer just the federal government. The government does this 10-year prediction shit. A procedural criticism. Oh, well, now it's into the parties. Because we got too close to having to think about being wrong. So now it's, well, it's only the Republican administrations as a result of their tax cuts and deregulation, because we just need high taxes and super regulations. So I said, I know this is way over your head, but they haven't been on point with their budgets for a decade. And then, of course, it's GOP Trump, GOP Trump, GOP Trump. Like, so I respond, the deficit is the deficit regardless of parties. I'm an anarchist, so I don't play this party game. They're both the same to me, so don't expect me to play your little goalpost moving game. But you agree that one party is worse at handling the deficit and balancing the budget than the other. So I said, no, I don't see enough distinction between either party to think comparing lesser of the evils is worth my time. One wants to spend on the military, the other wants to spend on social projects. Both want to spend. So and here's the funny thing though is, wait, idiotic. They're the same lie aside. But I'm not lying. They both want to spend. And now here's the thing is, in his follow-up question, he confirms I'm right about that. Because there's no point in asking, do you consider spending on the military to be just as bad as spending on the other, on social programs? Well, I said they're both the same because they both want to spend. You're saying that's a lie, but then you're asking me to pick, well, isn't spending this place better than spending that place? You're telling me I'm lying. One of these should not be spending if I'm a liar. But okay. So, after I say I'm not playing this one party over the other game, do I not understand the difference between spending between the two? I don't know, because you're trying to ask me as if I'm supposed to say spending on the military is bad, but spending on social programs is good. But if they wanted to spend money on transgender surgeries for people in the military, you'd think that'd be wonderful. So there's not much of a distinction between the two. So my response that just deaded it all is yes, I'm not interested in spending on either. I don't think that it's the government's role to socially engineer society. How's that for you? How's that for you? I don't think it's any of these schmucks' roles. And if you want to put it very simply, it is, I don't think one man should rule over another. And that's exactly what they want. When they want these regulations, when they want these taxes, they want a ruler class and a class that is subjugated. And if you have someone that is cool with that, they are cool with either convincing themselves they are in the ruler class or think that they can find safety in the subjugation, like unfortunately my mother, there is not data that is going to pull them out of that. Something in their life might happen, some sort of slap in the face, but and it's especially not going to happen in the abstraction area. In the, oh well, the poverty rates and the rates of violence and the this and that and everything else, like again, you kind of got to be high level operating to look at that and be like, oh yeah, that's right in front of me. Because in the same, here's the problem, in the same way I am about this sci-fi passing as science bullshit, these people are about like local crime. That's the real, like, what? Like, I can afford to be like, oh, you can't go to the moon. Like, don't even think about it. And to think you're going anywhere beyond that is nonsense. You're calling these things planets and think you know about their fucking gaseous systems and all of this nonsense, and it's just like a flickering light in the sky when you look at it. Like it's like it might as well be a star, or who the fuck knows, or a speck of dust on your telescope. Like, you know so little about that, and so much of it is bullshit that that's all relative. But when it's like, when you think you can have that blase, because like I'm saying, is that has no implications on anything. Period. No implications on anything. But when you're having that attitude towards your local crime and convincing yourself a fucking destitute area is thriving, that's a level of self-delusion I can't afford to have. So, that's my rant for today. I'm not going over an hour. So, take care, everyone. Follow me on all social media. And Jamie Star Music. My album is out. Thumper. I Am. You can find it on SoundCloud, Amazon, and everywhere else. So have a good one, everyone.